I died, choking on my own blood. The metallic tang flooding my mouth as the brake lines of my cherry-red Corvette snapped like brittle bones on that rain-slicked Pacific Coast highway. My husband's hands, those same hands that had slipped the wedding ring onto my finger just 6 months earlier, gripped the wheel. But it was too late. He was screaming my name, June, over the roar of the engine, even as the cliff edge rushed up to swallow us whole. But the real killer? My father, the silver-haired titan of Wall Street, who'd whispered in my ear at the wedding reception that I'd never amount to anything without his empire. Right before he cut me off for good, cold, calculated, like discarding a faulty stock. Waking up wasn't a gentle fade-in, like those bullshit near-death experiences you read about in self-help rags. No. It hit me like a freight train derailing in my skull, sharp, unrelenting. The kind of pain that makes you question if hell's got a fast-forward button. I bolted upright in a king-sized bed that smelled like lavender and fresh linen, my heart jackhammering against ribs that felt too young, too unbroken. The clock on the nightstand blinked 7:14 a.m. June 15th, my wedding day. Not the one where everything went to hell, but the one before. The glittering farce in the Hamptons where I'd said, "I do," to a man who would later steer me off a cliff. I was 28 again. June Harper. Heiress to nothing but a lifetime of daddy's conditional love and a Rolodex full of fake friends. My reflection in the vanity mirror stared back, porcelain skin without the faint scars from that accident, auburn hair cascading in loose waves instead of matted with seawater and regret. I touched my cheek, half expecting the ghost of bruises from the crash. But there was only smoothness. Trung Sin, they call it reincarnation in those old Vietnamese folktales my mom used to whisper before Dad shipped her off to a retreat in Sedona for being too emotional. But this was no fairy tale. This was a do-over, served up raw and screaming for blood. The memories crashed in waves, each one a razor blade slicing through the fog. Dad, Richard Harper, CEO of Harper Global Investments. The man who'd built a fortune shorting subprime mortgages in '08 while preaching family values on CNBC had always played me like a pawn. I'd clawed my way into Yale on my own merit, double majoring in finance and psych, only for him to parade me as the perfect daughter at galas, a trophy to distract from the whispers about his affairs. Then came the betrayal that sealed my fate, the boardroom coup. 6 months after the wedding, when I dared to challenge his shady offshore deals, shell companies funneling millions into crypto scams that would have tanked the firm if exposed, he turned on me. Accused me of embezzlement, planted evidence in my accounts, and cut me off without a dime. "You're dead to me, June," he'd snarled, his voice like gravel over glass. Enter Mark, my husband-to-be, the charming venture capitalist with dimples that could melt ice and a laugh that echoed like summer thunder. He'd swept in like a knight, proposing on a private jet over the Grand Canyon, promising to build an empire with me. But in my first life, he'd been complicit. Oh, so sweetly. Fed Dad intel on my disloyalty, slept with my half-sister Lila while I drowned in legal fees. And then, the finale, tampering with the brakes on that fateful drive home from our reconciliation dinner. Why? A fat payout from Dad. Of course, $20 million to make me vanish quietly. No messy divorce headlines. The cops called it mechanical failure. I called it murder. Now, here I was, sheets tangled around my legs, the veil of my wedding gown draped over the chaise like a shroud. The house, our pre-wedding crash pad in Soho, a minimalist loft with exposed brick and skyline views, hummed with the distant buzz of the city waking up. My phone vibrated on the charger, A text from Lila. Can't wait for the big day.
Sis.
Dad's toasting to new beginnings. To Heart's new beginnings.
Yeah, right.
In my first go-round, that toast had been laced with arsenic-level sarcasm. Her fake smile hiding the knife she'd twist later when she discovered Dad's fabricated ledger tying me to the fraud. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed, bare feet hitting the cool hardwood. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone, but instead of replying, I opened the browser. A quick search, Harper Global stock ticker, steady at $247.82. No scandals yet. The wedding invite list, 300 A-listers. From tech bros to old money widows. All primed to watch the Harpers unite two dynasties. Mark's family had their fingers in Silicon Valley AI startups. Dad saw it as the perfect merger. But I knew the rot beneath. Dad's secret ledger. Buried in an encrypted drive, detailing kickbacks from Russian oligarchs funneled through Mark's firm. I'd found it once. Too late. Hacked by a PI I'd hired in desperation. Only for it to disappear after the crash. Trungsin wasn't a gift, it was a loaded gun. And I had 6 hours until vows were exchanged. Vows that, in Timeline 2.0, chained me to a coffin. I needed a plan ruthless, airtight, the kind that would leave them choking on their own lies. First, the evidence. I'd memorized the drive's password from that fateful hack, Family First 88, Dad's sick joke. But accessing it now meant getting into his penthouse undetected. Second, Mark. Play the loving bride, but plant seeds of doubt. Make him slip. Third, the wedding itself. Turn it into ground zero for the fallout. A knock echoed from the foyer. My bridesmaids. Early birds with mimosas and makeup kits. June, you up? Lila's on her way, with the florist.
Shit.
Lila. The golden child. Dad's favorite since Mom's accident 10 years back, a drunk driving mishap that reeked of cover-up. I'd always suspected, but grief kept me blind. Now, every suspicion burned like acid. I forced a smile, the one I'd perfected at debutante balls, and called back. Coming. Just 1 second. As I slipped into the silk robe, the mirror caught my eye again. Those green eyes, Mom's eyes, stared back with a fire I hadn't seen since college protests. This time, I wouldn't beg for scraps. I'd burn the table and salt the earth. Dad wanted to cut me off?
Fine.
I'd sever the whole damn branch. The morning blurred into a whirlwind of hairspray and hollow laughter. Lila arrived in a cloud of Chanel No. 5. Her blonde bob impeccable, hugging me like we were blood instead of half-sisters separated by Dad's wandering dick and a quickie Vegas marriage to her mom. You look radiant, Junebug, she cooed, air-kissing my cheeks. Mark's a lucky bastard. Her eyes flicked to my phone, where a calendar reminder pinged, renew prenup clause, anti-cheat. In my first life, I'd laughed it off as paranoia.
Now.
It was prophecy. We piled into the stretch Escalade, weaving through Manhattan traffic toward the helipad for the chopper to the Hamptons. Lila chattered about her latest philanthropy gig, some foundation Dad funded to launder image after a Me Too whisper about his HR practices. I nodded, sipping champagne that tasted like battery acid, my mind mapping contingencies. If the drive hack failed, I'd leak the offshore docs anonymously to the SEC, timed for post-ceremony cocktails. When the champagne popped and guards were down, Mark met us at the estate, all broad shoulders in a crisp tux, pulling me into a dip that drew us from the bridesmaids. Mrs. Harper-to-be, he murmured, lips brushing my ear. Ready to conquer the world? His breath was minty, cologne spicy, the same scent that had clung to the airbags when we plummeted. I leaned in, whispering, more than you know, babe. My hand on his chest felt the steady thump of his heart, innocent now. Or so he thought. But I'd seen the emails, the wire transfers. 20 mil for a widow's peace. The ceremony unfolded like a Hollywood script, string quartet warbling Pachelbel. Guests in pastel linens on white folding chairs, facing the Atlantic. Dad stood at the altar, ramrod straight in his bespoke Tom Ford, eyes gleaming like a shark scenting chum. When he walked me down the aisle, arms stiff. No tears, his grip bruised. Don't fuck this up, June, he hissed under the veil's rustle. This alliance saves us all.
Saves him.
More like. From the FBI probe I'd glimpsed in redacted files post-crash. I do, I said, voice steady as steel. Locking eyes with Mark. Rings exchanged. Rice tossed. And then the reception, a tented extravaganza with lobster towers and a live band from Brooklyn. Toasts flowed, senators, influencers, the whole circus. Dad's was a masterpiece. To June and Mark, the future of Harper legacy. May it be as unbreakable as our family bonds. Laughter rippled. I raised my flute, smiling like a Cheshire cat. Unbreakable? I'd shatter them like cheap crystal. As dusk painted the sky bruise purple, I slipped away to the guest house, laptop in tow. The estate's Wi-Fi was a fortress, but I'd cracked weaker in econ class. Logging into Dad's cloud via a backdoor I'd bookmarked in my mind. Thank you. Yale cybersecurity elective. The drive materialized. Folders upon folders. Legacy projects. Contingencies. There. JH. Exposure. Heart pounding. I downloaded the ledger. Pages of transactions. $5M to a Cayman account marked Lila Trust. $12 million rerouted through Mark's VC fund to a shell in Delaware. And the kicker, Mom's crash. Not drunk driving. Brake failure. Same as mine. Dad's signature on the mechanic's invoice. Paid off in cash. Nausea roiled. But I compressed the file. Encrypted it with a dead man's switch. Email blast to Wall Street Journal.
Knit.
And the DA if I didn't disarm by midnight. Back in the tent, Mark twirled me on the dance floor, oblivious. You okay? Looked pale. I pressed close, inhaling his scent one last time. Just overwhelmed. Love you.
Lies.
Sweet as honey. Then Lila sidled up during the cake cutting, her smile a scalpel. Dad mentioned your little investment ideas. Careful. Sis, don't rock the boat. Her words dripped venom. Eyes darting to Dad across the lawn, where he huddled with Mark's father, cigars glowing like conspirator signals. Rock the boat? I'd capsize the yacht. The night wore on, fireworks bursting over the waves like false promises. Guests buzzed about Mark's big announcement tomorrow, a merger tease with Harper Global. In my first life, it had been the noose tightening.
Now?
My hook. I cornered Dad in the library, away from the revelry, the fire crackling like accusations. We need to talk. Daddy. He swirled his scotch, eyebrow arched. Not now.
June.
Enjoy your night. I slid my phone across the desk, the ledger preview glowing. His face drained to ash. Where did you? Get this. I cut in. Voice low thunder. Mom's accident. Your deals. Mark's cut. I know everything. His laugh was bark without bite. Bluffing. You'd never air family dirt. I leaned in, close enough to smell the bourbon on his breath. Try me. Sign over 10% of the firm to me, quietly, or this hits every inbox by dawn. And Lila? She's next on the subpoena list. He lunged, hand clamping my wrist. You ungrateful bitch. After all I twisted free. The self-defense classes from post-Yale paranoia paying off. All you've done? Buried Mom. Framed me. Bought my murder.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the second chance. His eyes widened.
Calculating.
Murder? What the hell are you on about? Denial.
Classic.
But the flicker, guilt, raw and real, confirmed it.
Outside.
Mark searched for me, concern etching his brow. I straightened my gown, reapplied lipstick in the mirror. Phase 2, the twist. Tomorrow's brunch. I'd play the dutiful wife, then drop the bomb. But as I stepped into the night, Lila's shadow detached from the hedges. Eavesdropping? Sis. Her grin was feral. You think you're the only one with secrets? Lila's words hung in the air like smoke from a snuffed candle, curling insidious around the laughter drifting from the tent. She stepped into the pool of light from the library window. Her bridesmaid's dress, emerald silk that matched the envy in her eyes, clinging like a second skin. Secrets? June?
Oh.
Honey, I've got a vault full. But yours? That little download stunt? Amateur hour. My pulse spiked. But I kept my face a mask, cool. Harper-bred indifference. Inside, the gears ground. She'd tailed me. Or worse, had her own backdoor. In my first life, Lila had been the cleanup crew, shredding files post-crash, emerging as Dad's loyal successor.
Now.
She was escalating early. Cut the crap, I said, voice pitched low to avoid drawing Mark's orbit. What do you want? She laughed, a tinkling bell laced with arsenic, circling me like a shark in heels. Want? I want what's mine. Dad promised me the corner office after the merger. You waltz in with your troubleshooting bullshit, and suddenly it's June's world. Her finger jabbed the air toward the tent, where shadows waltzed to Sinatra. Mark's announcement? It's my pipeline, AI ethics audits to whitewash the Russian money. You screw that. We all sink. Ethics audits.
The phrase twisted like a knife.
In Timeline 1, I'd championed real oversight, only for it to be twisted into Dad's smokescreen. Lila, the architect, her Wharton MBA greased with Daddy's donations. So, you're an on-the-break job too? I tested, watching her pupils dilate. She froze, then recovered with a smirk. Breaks? Dramatic much? But if you're fishing for confessions, save it. Dad's got lawyers who'd bury you deeper than Mom.
Mom.
The name was a grenade. She lobbed it casual. But I saw the flinch, the micro-tremor in her lip. Half-sister or not. She'd been 16 when Mom died. Old enough to resent the real, daughter stealing Dad's scraps. You were driving that night, I pressed, memory sharpening like a lens. No, the official report said Lila was at a sleepover. Alibi airtight. But the maid's deposition I'd unearthed post-crash? A forgotten detail. Lila's car in the garage. Keys missing. Her face hardened, the party girl facade cracking. Fuck you. June. You think you're the victim? Try growing up as the rebound kid. Watching you get the trust fund while I got table scraps. She stepped closer, breath hot with wine. Sign the NDA tomorrow. Waive your board seat, or I leak your therapy sessions. The ones where you ranted about dad's abuse. Pills. Breakdowns.
Poof.
You're the unstable one.
Therapy.
God. The irony. Those sessions were real, catharsis after Mom's death. When Dad drowned grief in scotch and starlets. I'd poured out the rage, his gaslighting, the isolation. How he'd whisper, "You're just like her, fragile." Lila must have hacked the shrink's notes, or bribed the receptionist. Blackmail. Vintage Harper. But this? It was personal. A mirror to my own arsenal. I grabbed her arm. Nails digging crescents. You touch those files, and your sleepover alibi unravels. The mechanic? He rolled over for Dad once. He'll do it again for the right price. Her eyes flashed fear, then fury. She yanked free, stumbling back into the shadows. This isn't over, sis. Then she melted into the crowd, leaving me with the echo of fireworks and a resolve forged in hellfire. Back in the tent, I played the bride, cutting cake with Mark, slow dancing to Ed Sheeran, accepting toasts that tasted like bile. Dad watched from the bar, his glare a laser. He'd fold or fight. But the ledger was my Excalibur. Mark pulled me aside during the bouquet toss, his hands warm on my waist. "Babe, you vanished." "Everything good?" His concern was genuine, or seemed so. In the first life, it had been his Achilles, that sliver of real affection amid the betrayal. What made the crash sting deepest? "Just girl talk with Lila," I lied,
Tracing his jaw. "She's jealous."
"Thinks I'm stealing her thunder." He chuckled, low and rumbling. "Let her. We've got empires to build." Empires. Plural. I'd gutted that dream once. Now, I'd repurpose the bricks. "Speaking of," I murmured, "that announcement tomorrow, make it big." "Dad's counting on you. Plant the seed. Loyalty to him, not me." Brunch dawned gray and gusty, the Hamptons estate shrouded in sea mist like a bad omen. Guests nursed hangovers over avocado toast and Bloody Marys on the veranda. The merger reveal set for noon in the solarium, glass walls framing the dunes. A fishbowl for the elite. I arrived late, feigning a migraine. Mark at my side with aspirins and adoring glances. Dad held court at the head table, Lila to his right, her smile the rictus.
"Ah,
"The power couple graces us," he boomed, raising his mimosa. Murmurs rippled. Senators, VCs, a smattering of tabloid photographers disguised as event staff. Mark took the podium. Charisma dialed to 11. "Ladies, gentlemen, today, Harper Global and Innovate Ventures announce a seismic shift, a $2 billion AI integration platform, revolutionizing ethical investing." Slides flickered. Pie charts, holograms of neural nets. Applause thundered. Dad beamed like a proud papa. But I saw the strings, Lila's audits puppeteering the ethics, laundering the oligarch cash. My cue. As Mark yielded the mic, I stood, flute in hand. "A toast," I called, voice cutting the din like a scalpel. All eyes swiveled, curious, indulgent. To family. To secrets that bind us. Or break us. I raised my glass higher, locking on Dad. Like the ones in JH. Exposure. Offshores.
Kickbacks.
A mother's untimely end. Gasps rippled. Lila's fork clattered. Dad's face went volcanic. June. Sit down. Or, how about the prenup clause Mark signed? I continued, undeterred, the dead man's switch humming in my clutch. The one valuing my life at 20 million in case of accident. Mark's head snapped toward me. Confusion etching deep. June? What the fuck? The room froze. A tableau of pearl-clutching widows and paling execs. I hit send on my phone. Anonymous drops to key journalists in the crowd. PDFs cascaded into inboxes, ledgers, mechanic invoices. Mom's tox report clean, no alcohol. Chaos erupted, phones buzzing, whispers exploding into shouts. A senator bolted for the exit. Lila lunged for me, nails raking my arm. You bitch. I'll ruin you, Dad roared over the din. Security, get her out. But Mark grabbed my hand, pulling me through the scrum. Explain. Now. In his eyes. Betrayal warred with something raw. Hurt? Love? In the first life. He'd confessed on his deathbed. Post-crash, survival guilt eating him alive. It was the money.
June.
He said you'd never know.
Now.
Faced with the abyss. Would he jump or fight? We barricaded in the library. The melee muffled by oak doors. It was all a lie. I spilled. Tears strategic, but real. Dad framed me. Paid you too. To end it. Mom too. I found out. Too late. His face crumpled. The dimples deepening into trenches. Jesus.
June.
He approached me after the prenup talks. Said you were unstable. A liability. 20 mil to protect the family. I thought it was insurance. Not, he broke, sinking into a wingback. Head and hands. I loved you. Still do.
Loved.
Past tense? Or present? My heart twisted. Damn this body for remembering the good parts. Lazy Sundays in bed. His thumb tracing my scars from a childhood fall. But trust was a luxury corpse. Prove it, I said, voice steel. Testify. Against him. All of it. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. And the firm? Our future. Fuck the future, I snapped. We build a new one clean. A beat. Then he nodded. Slow. Resolute. Okay. For you. Outside. Sirens wailed, FBI.
Tipped by my drops.
Dad's empire teetered. Shares plummeting on live feeds. Lila screamed obscenities from a squad car. Dad, cuffed on the veranda, met my gaze through the window. No words. Just a nod, surrender. Or promise of war. The fallout hit like a Category 5. Headline screamed, Harper Air exposes dynasty of deceit. My face plastered on CNBC as the whistleblower saint. Dad lawyered up. But the ledgers were ironclad. Plea deal incoming. 20 years minimum. Lila flipped first. Trading testimony for immunity. Turns out, she'd wired the brakes on Mom's car in a teen rage-fueled prank, covered by Dad's hush money. Blood money. Indeed. Mark? He didn't run. Instead, he leaked his own files, innovates complicity, earning a slap on the wrist for cooperation. We divorced quietly. No fault. But he kept his word, testified, then vanished to Seattle, building ethical AI startups with a June Fund scholarship in his charter. Last I heard, he was single, haunted, karma's slow burn. 6 months post-brunch Armageddon. The Hamptons estate sold for pennies on the dollar. A ghost ship auctioned to some Dubai chic with zero taste. I stood on the veranda one last time. wind whipping my coat like vindication's applause. The ocean churned below, indifferent to the Harper's fall, Dad in Otisville, trading pinstripes for khakis, Lila in witness protection, her philanthropy reduced to court-mandated community service.
Me?
June Harper, no longer heiress, but architect of my own ascent. The boardroom waited in Midtown. Harper Global's husk rebranded as Phoenix Equity My Equity, 10% carved out in the settlement. Leveraged into majority control via activist investors I'd courted post-leak. The merger? Dead on arrival. But from its ashes rose something pure, transparent funds, audited to the bone, with a whistleblower hotline named after Mom, Elena's Echo. Today's summit was the capstone, a room of skeptics, ex-execs, regulators, even a Wall Street Journal reporter nursing coffee in the corner. I'd invited them to witness the Phoenix rise. But really, it was theater. My theater. As I entered, the glass doors whooshed shut, sealing the space in tense hush. The table gleamed under LED spots, skyline framing us like a diorama of power reclaimed. Ladies, gentlemen, I began, voice echoing off chrome accents. We all know why we're here. Harper Global died in scandal. Phoenix rises clean. Murmurs stirred doubt, curiosity. At the far end sat Victor Klein, Dad's old consigliera, silver fox with a prosecutor's glare. MS. Harper, he drawled, accent pure mainline Philly. Bold words. But blood's thicker than ink. You gonna rewrite history, or just whitewash it? The room tensed. Forks pausing mid-bite on the catered spread, sushi rolls and kale salads. Ironic health kick for vultures. Victor was the wild card, loyal to Dad, rumored to have ghostwritten the ledgers. In my first life, he'd been the one to discover my planted fraud, earning a promotion. Now, he was bait. I smiled, slow and sharp, circling the table like a litigator in stilettos. History? No. Justice? Absolutely. I tapped my tablet, projecting the final exhibit, Victor's emails to Dad, contingency for JH. Executed. Mechanic paid. Clean. Gasps rippled. His face blanched. Coffee spilling black across linen. That's doctored. By you, I interjected. Voice velvet over razor. Or the FBI forensics team? The reporter's pen scratched furious. Exec shifted. Sense of fierce sweat mingling with citrus air freshener. Victor bolted up. Chair scraping like nails on chalkboard. This is libel. I'll sue, but security, my hires. XLS with earpieces, flanked him. Cuffs glinting casual. The room erupted. Shouts. Phones out. A senator's wife fainting dramatically into her birkin. I raised a hand, commanding silence. Phoenix isn't Harper 2.0. No shadows. No shortcuts. Victor's out. The board votes now on divestment from tainted assets. Hands shot up unanimous. The cowards. Victor lunged across the table. Spittle flying. You think you're avenged? Your mother's blood's on all our hands, including yours. For being blind. Blind. The word landed like a sucker punch, dredging the guilt I'd buried. In both lives, I'd ignored the signs. Mom's pleas for divorce. The late nights Dad spent working. But vengeance wasn't absolution. It was evolution. As they dragged him out, thrashing like a marlin on a line, I met his eyes, cold, unyielding. Mine's clean now. Yours? Rot in hell. The meeting dissolved into frenzy. Deals inked. Headlines birthed on the spot. Harper daughter's coup, from victim to victor. I slipped out amid the chaos. Elevator descending to the lobby where Mark waited. Uninvited. But expected. He leaned against a marble pillar. Trench coat dusted with city grime. Dimples shadowed by stubble. Heard the fireworks from the street. You always did know how to crash a party. I halted. Pulse a traitor. Stalking now? Thought Seattle suited you. He straightened. Hands in pockets, defensive. Vulnerable. Couldn't stay away. The fund. It's thriving. Kids from nowhere. Coding ethics into AI. Your echo. June. A pause. Heavy as Manhattan humidity. I came to say.
I'm sorry.
For real. Not just the crash, the blindness. I saw the signs too. Played along for the shine. His confession hung. Raw and unvarnished. The lobby's hum fading to white noise. In my first life, this moment came too late. On a hospital gurney as monitors flatlined.
Now?
Forgiveness tempted. A siren's call. But trust was scar tissue. Tender and thick. Sorry doesn't rewind breaks, I said. Soft but final. But thanks for the fund. For testifying. Build your empire. I'll guard mine. He nodded. Eyes glistening, regret. Not tears.
Fair.
But if you ever. Seattle's got room for two. A ghost of his laugh. Then he turned, melting into the pedestrian crush outside. Alone in the elevator's ascent. I exhaled, victory's weight settling like a crown of thorns. Phoenix soared. But scars lingered, Mom's laugh in dreams. The phantom screech of tires. Dad's letters from prison pleaded reconciliation. Family first. Junebug, but I burned them unread. Lila's postcards from bumfuck Nebraska begged sisterhood. I filed them under delusions. Months blurred into a rhythm. Dawn runs along the Hudson. Board battles won with data swords. Nights with takeout and true crime docs. Irony's embrace. One evening, scrolling X, formerly Twitter, because Elon couldn't leave well enough. A notification pinged. Mark's post. A photo of the first Elena's Echo grad, a Latina girl from the Bronx, grinning beside a laptop etched with my initials. Caption: Ethics isn't inherited. It's built. Thanks to the woman who taught me that the hard way. At June Phoenix Rising, I smiled, real this time, and replied, build well. No cliffs. Heart emoji. Tentative bridge. Twist of fate, or just life's cruel loop. Trunks gave me the blade, but healing forged the sheath. Dad's empire crumbled.
But mine?
Unbreakable. Etched in light. As the skyline twinkled beyond my loft window, I raised a glass to ghosts laid, betrayals buried, and a second chance seized with teeth bared. The end?
Nah.
Just intermission. The Harpers taught me, in America's jungle of glass and greed, survival's the ultimate revenge. And damn, it tasted sweet.